Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. I am your host, Jim Chapman, and I am continuing today with the 17th episode in the Diddy Saga series. Now, it has been a couple of weeks since I last brought you a Diddy series episode, and we have much to discuss that has occurred over the last couple of weeks. But before we get into it, I've got some Patreon global celebrities to shout out. And I'm going to start with Scott Griezefy. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. He is from Morganza, Louisiana, which is actually about an hour from where my studio is located. And Morganza was actually named for Morganza Plantation. Morganza played a huge role in the Civil War era America, with its location along the Mississippi River, and at one time was even an encampment for the Union Army. So thank you for your support, Scott. And next up, I have Miss Hannah Soto, and she is from Beaver Creek, Ohio, which interestingly enough is home to both the National Aviation Hall of Fame and the National Museum of the Air Force. So Beaver Creek, a major hub for the history of aviation. Welcome to the global celebrity tier, Miss Hannah. I appreciate your support. And next I have Miss Cassie Land, and she's from Monument, Colorado. And y'all, Monument, Colorado is quite honestly the type of town you would see in a painting. It sits kind of in a valley. It's surrounded by a mountain range. It has beautiful lakes. It's just amazing. So go Google it. Check it out. Monument, Colorado. Thank you so much for joining Miss Cassie. I appreciate it. And lastly, this week, I have Sheridan Sweeney. And I love that first name, by the way. Look, y'all, I have a thing for, I guess you could say, non-common first names and interesting spellings of first names. So I love the name Sheridan as a first name. And Sheridan is from Andover, Massachusetts. And get this, Andover is one of the oldest towns in the United States. It was settled way back in 1642 and actually incorporated in 1646. A lot of history in Andover. And thank you so much, Sheridan, for supporting Exposed. So we got Colorado, Louisiana, Massachusetts, and Ohio bringing the pain this week. And if you would like to see what the fuss is all about with bonus episodes, files, pictures, videos, quarterly merchandise, check us out on Patreon. I think you'll definitely feel like it was worth the investment. Now, let's get into the current news on Diddy. And today I'm going to start out with some news that dropped on November 7th with some comments made by incoming President Donald Trump's senior security advisor, a guy by the name of Kash Patel, who hinted at the possibility of Trump declassifying not only the Diddy documents that have not been made public yet, and yeah, there are some that have not been made public, but also some of the infamous Epstein documents with no redactions. So here's that article, and then we'll talk about it. Senior Trump security advisor Kash Patel stated that the president-elect plans to declassify thousands of documents related to federal government investigations into human trafficking and sexual blackmail rings run by music industry mogul Sean Diddy Combs and deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein, both of whom were well connected with dozens of high-profile political leaders and celebrities. In an interview with conservative commentator Benny Johnson, Patel stressed that restoring public trust in America's legal and national security institutions will be a top priority of a second Trump administration. He's quoted as saying, "And then we go back to the DOJ and the FBI. We still don't have all the list, all the FISAs, all of the stuff they did to 275,000 Americans illegally in 1 year. I'm not saying put out the recipe on how we do it. We can keep the hood on the engine, but we can still show the American people how they violated our rights. And to me, what you said is most important, restoring trust in our agencies and departments. The way to do that is to literally give the American people the truth. And that's what they feared about Donald Trump. He's going to come in there and maybe give them the Epstein list and maybe give them the P. Diddy list. You know, he's going to come up there and maybe do all these things, Patel continued. And they are terrified. And when he says they, he means the people on those lists. The full client list from Epstein's notorious island, where underage girls were trafficked and forced to perform sex acts on influential figures, has still not been released more than 5 years after his mysterious suicide in a Manhattan jail. As for Combs, he's currently being held in federal prison on several serious trafficking problems. So there you have that. And especially with the Epstein documents, this would be something that has been a long time coming. The infamous Epstein list being made public. So many people have been calling for that for 5 years now, and time will tell. But apparently it's being considered. Now, in several past episodes, I discussed with you the bail attempts Diddy has made. 2 times he has requested bail so far, and so far both of those bail requests have been denied. I also warned you that as the trial got closer, and the fact that he has, let's be honest, the best defense lawyers money can buy, there was an outside chance he could at least get another bail hearing. And on November 12th, this news broke. Lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs won a third chance to argue that he should be released from jail pending his May 5th trial date on federal sex trafficking charges. U.S. District Judge Subramanian set 2:00 p.m. on November 22nd for a bail hearing. And incidentally, y'all, I am actually recording this on the 21st. So if I have time to edit this before I put it out, I'll give you the result of that hearing. I don't know when it's going to take place. It may be late in the day on the 22nd. And if that's the case, chances are I won't have time to edit it and get everything done before it's released. But I will keep you updated. Combs has remained in a federal lockup in Brooklyn since his September 16th arrest. Before the judge set the new date, he wasn't due back in court until December 18th. The judge is set to be the third federal judge to weigh whether the rap mogul should be released, pending a trial on a 3-count federal indictment charging him with racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Federal prosecutors say since at least 2009, he engaged in a pattern of sexual violence, and it goes on to talk about that. I'm not going to repeat that because we've talked about it 100 times. At a separate bail hearing in September, Combs' initial arraignment judge and a second judge agreed with federal prosecutors who argued that the chance of his obstructing justice and the risk to the community were too high for him to remain free. Subramanian took over the case on October 3rd after the second judge, District Judge Andrew Carter, couldn't accommodate the May trial date. Combs is now arguing before the judge that he'd agreed to home confinement and around-the-clock GPS monitoring if allowed out of jail. Home confinement would be at his residence in Miami or at a suitable location in New York, he says. He has offered to post a $50 million bond collateralized by the Miami home hasn't changed. Prosecutors will have until Friday to file a response to this latest bail bid. Combs' side gets to reply to that response by Wednesday, November 20th, 2 days before the hearing. Lawyers for Combs and a spokesman for prosecutors didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. There you have it. A big win for the Diddy camp. He's granted yet another bail hearing. And look, you never know what can happen. He may, in fact, get bail. I'll keep you posted. Now, another issue when you're a billionaire, a totally narcissistic asshole billionaire like Diddy, and you're suddenly thrown into jail is the fact that you are told what you can and cannot do. Diddy ain't used to that, right? I mean, he is not used to being told no by anyone, and it has been quite the adjustment for Diddy. But when you are used to buying your way out of everything, that just does not end when you are incarcerated. And in this article, which was released November 16th, they covered that in some pretty good detail. And it says, since his arrest back in September, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been spending his time in Brooklyn's detention center while his legal team sought to transfer him to house arrest. Some sources allege things are better for Diddy than that would suggest. Stories on social media have claimed Diddy is still a powerful figure, even behind bars. It was claimed Diddy was using phone calls and email against regulation, taking to X and Instagram. The X post even came with statements allegedly given by prosecutors. And the post on X was captioned, according to U.S. prosecutors, Diddy is running the jail, using inmates' phone time to try to get in touch with witnesses and fabricate stories for the media. It was also alleged that Diddy was paying off other inmates to assist him while still fulfilling their commissary. These claims were made by the federal government in an opposition that was filed this past Friday. Throughout the opposition, it was claimed that Diddy's behavior went against the Bureau of Prisons. It was also alleged in the opposition that the defendant also frequently instructs individuals who he contacts by telephone, including family members and his attorneys, to add other individuals via a three-way call. It was noted that the Bureau of Prison does not authorize such actions as it can help conceal the identities of contacted individuals. The claims were reportedly a response to Diddy's legal team. It was also claimed that Combs used email for similar purposes. More specifically, Combs allegedly was to be using a third-party messaging service called Contact Me ASAP. On the issue of phone calls, it was also claimed that Combs was using other inmates' accounts. At one point, the post claimed the defendant used telephone accounts of at least 8 other inmates. It was also said this came to light after dozens of recordings of BOP jail calls had been reviewed. It was noted this was also against BOP regulations. And y'all, honestly, none of that surprises me. Look, this guy's got unlimited income, and most of these guys in prison with him, they ain't got no income. They sure ain't got millions and millions of dollars. And hey, if you want to use my account to make phone calls, these guys are thinking, give me, $1,000. I'll let you use it all you want. And, Diddy's used to this. He's used to buying his fucking way out of everything. So there's just another sad example of that. So Cassie, in the infamous hotel lobby ass kicking that Diddy did to her, as I've told you many times, really put this whole shit show into motion. Were it not for that video coming out, it's my belief he never would be sitting in jail right now. It's not because that was the solid proof, but it's the outrage that that video generated from public, from regular people that knew firsthand, right there, undeniable proof, how much of an ass Sean Diddy Combs is. Because it's right there on video for everybody to see. But on November 18th, some details that have never been made public regarding that specific incident in that hotel lobby finally have. And that was the communication between Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura via text right after the incident. This is interesting. And here's how that reads. Newly revealed alleged text messages tied to Sean Diddy Combs' federal case for alleged sex trafficking have surfaced, this according to an exclusive report. These messages, reportedly sent by singer Cassie to Combs, were allegedly written following an assault in an LA hotel room in 2016. Footage of the alleged incident, which gained attention earlier this year, has added a layer of scrutiny to the case. Cassie's lawsuit against the music mogul came to light in late 2023 under the Adult Survivors Act. While the lawsuit was swiftly settled and That's saying it lightly. It was settled the next day. The settlement terms remain undisclosed. This development occurred amidst a wave of similar civil suits filed against Combs, and of course, I've covered all of those. According to disclosures from the federal government, Cassie allegedly sent a text message to Diddy after the 2016 hotel incident, expressing the physical and emotional toll of the altercation. Quote, "I have a black eye and a fat lip," she wrote. Quote, "You're sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. I still have crazy bruising. I turn my head for a second and you get violent. You drag me down the hall by my hair. I have bleeding cuts. You hit me in the head twice." The text continued, reportedly addressing the recurring nature of the abuse. And that's important, y'all. This wasn't a one-time deal. Not that that would matter, but it does in a way. When you get upset the wrong way, you always want to show me that you have the power and you knock me around. I'm not a rag doll. I'm someone's child, unquote. In early 2024, Sean Diddy Combs issued a public apology for his actions against Cassie after CNN released video footage of the 2016 incident. The music mogul called his behavior inexcusable, emphasizing his commitment to therapy and his personal growth. While the Los Angeles DA's office did not pursue charges due to the statute of limitations, the incident remained part of a federal prosecutor's broader allegations against him in a federal case involving sex trafficking. In other developments, former Bad Boy artist Shine stirred controversy by claiming he served as the fall guy for Diddy in the infamous 1999 nightclub shooting. And y'all, I haven't even gotten into that. There are some special episodes that I'm going to get to probably sooner than you think that are specifically related to certain aspects of Diddy Combs. One will be a J-Lo episode. One will be that Shine episode that they're referencing here. There's several on the horizon. One's going to be regarding 50 Cent and his relationship with Diddy, or non-relationship, I guess you could say. But I continue. Shine alleged that Diddy was the true instigator of that incident, though the claim has been met with skepticism and rebuttals from figures like Funk Flex. While some find credibility in Shine's accusations, they remain unproven and should be approached cautiously. And y'all, Shine was like Diddy's protege. He was going to be the next generation's version of Diddy, and Diddy pretty much fucked him, probably literally and figuratively. But we'll move on. Probably the biggest piece of news here lately regarding Diddy also came out on the 18th when the feds made what I'm going to say is a fatal error in this case. This one flat out fired me up. So I'm going to read the article and then we're going to discuss it. Federal agents allegedly raided Sean Diddy Combs' jail cell and seized attorney-client privilege materials, his lawyer claims. Mark Agnifilo, the rapper's attorney, said he learned Friday that prosecutors allegedly obtained sensitive defense notes from Combs' cells at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. The seized documents include information about defense witnesses and strategies prepared for Combs' upcoming May trial, according to his attorney. Combs' legal team also said the notes were handed over to trial prosecutors and may have been used in a legal filing aimed at keeping Combs in custody. His attorney requested an immediate hearing to address the matter, demanding accountability from federal agents regarding who authorized the alleged search of Combs' prison cell, who decided which materials to confiscate, and who passed the alleged seized items to the U.S. Attorney's Office. He's also seeking to identify who allegedly provided those materials to trial prosecutors and who allegedly made the decision to withhold the seizure's details from Combs, including exactly what was taken. Now, here's where the prosecution, y'all, could run into major issues. The last thing that you want in this trial is a dismissal based off of bullshit like this. And that can happen. This can totally throw out the case. Shit like this. Don't think it cannot happen. I mean, this is a major fuck up, y'all. I can't tell you how bad this is. Just a classic mistake here. Now, why is it so serious? Well, whether you realize it or not, all it takes is one dumb-ass decision like this to ruin that entire case. And Diddy can and will walk free. I have seen this so many times with court cases. Federal prosecutors pushing to make an already solid case, right? Diddy's case is already solid. You don't need to, I don't want to use the word cheat, but you don't need to bend the rules to try to make your case more solid. It's already solid. You don't have to do that. And you're not playing with rookie defense teams here. You're messing with a very skilled, very high-paid lawyer team who just needs one opening. That's all they need. One dumbass mistake, and it can blow the whole case. They need to play by the rules. A blind man right now can convict Diddy with all the evidence that they have that already exists. Don't screw it up with bad judgment calls like this. This is the last thing this case needs. Now, I mentioned earlier that Diddy has a bail hearing coming up, and you may ask yourself, why is that so important for Diddy Combs to remain in jail outside of the obvious that he's a piece of shit, right? And he deserves to sit there. Well, there are so many considerations, but this article, also released on November 18th, really covers it well. And it says federal prosecutors are once again urging the judge not to grant Sean Combs bail, claiming the mogul has attempted to tamper with witnesses and influence potential jurors behind bars. Prosecutors filed a motion late Friday in response to the one filed by Combs' defense team, which I read to you earlier, requesting another bail hearing after he is previously denied pretrial release by two different judges. In the latest filing, prosecutors claim that Combs has made relentless efforts to contact potential witnesses, including victims of his abuse who could provide powerful testimony against him. The Bad Boy Records founder is accused of using the phone access codes, known as pack numbers, of other inmates to contact several people, including his sons, from jail, and has made three-way calls to contact other individuals. Prosecutors also allege that Combs has used a third-party communication service called Contact Me ASAP to contact unauthorized individuals. Several of the claims made by prosecutors in the filing are redacted. Prosecutors referenced a case of an October call between Combs and one of his adult sons as an example of his alleged effort to contact witnesses, but the specifics of that call appear to be redacted. However, prosecutors claim the call provides the clear inference that the defendant's goal is to blackmail victims and witnesses either into silence or providing testimony helpful to his defense. Combs has also sought to shape public perception of this case behind bars, prosecutors allege. They cite a video posted on Instagram by Combs' son, Justin, featuring the mogul's children singing happy birthday over the phone to their jailed father who turns 55 November 4th. The mogul is charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Following a federal indictment, Combs was initially denied bail when a judge cited concern that he could tamper with witnesses, and he absolutely can, and that is a huge reason to keep him behind bars. Well, there's the fear factor. Right now, these witnesses feel somewhat safe because he's behind bars, even though he has, long arms, let's say, for lack of a better term, that he could reach out and touch somebody if he had to. At the same token, it does make them feel a little bit safer if he's behind bars and can't get to them physically. And you go release him from jail, you're going to have some people start buttoning up. Let's just say that. So it's very important that he stays in jail. Let's get back to what I just told you a few minutes ago about those jailhouse notes that those prosecutors got their hands on when his cell was tossed. Why did they do that? What is Diddy's only real chance of getting out of this whole thing? Well, a former federal prosecutor, he kind of explained his thoughts in pretty good detail in this November 19th article. And his name is Nima Rahmani. He's a former federal prosecutor who runs a private practice in Los Angeles. And he said that anything taken from Combs by federal investigators that they turned over to prosecutors was likely vetted by a third party and found not to include any privileged materials. And let's stop right there, just really quick. If you'll remember, and you have listened to my Murdaugh series, when Murdaugh was being interviewed inside a vehicle and they wanted to go through his cell phone because he's a lawyer, they asked him if there was any privileged information on that cell phone. And he said, hell yeah, there's a lot of it. And they said, well, we're going to get a third party. And they had a name for it that slips my mind right now, but it's a third party lawyer that has nothing to do with the case. He goes through it and he sees if there's any privileged information. If there is, he somehow redacts that. And so that's the same thing here. And I'll continue on. Diddy's only real chance at an acquittal is a payoff, threaten, or to blackmail victims to change their stories, what I just told you. And prosecutors want to make sure that does not happen. And I'm sure they do. Inmates don't have a Fourth Amendment expectation of privacy, this lawyer said, when they're in prison. So their argument is weak, according to him. Guards can search his cell without probable cause or a warrant. Potentially privileged documents typically undergo special treatment, he said. The feds usually use a taint or dirty team of agents that aren't working on the case to conduct these searches, he said. That way, if they see privileged materials, the clean team won't be disqualified from the case. Combs is due in court for a bail hearing on Friday, his latest attempt to go free before trial. Prosecutors, however, accuse him of attempting to pressure witnesses from behind bars and say he must remain remanded. Prosecutors have reason to believe Diddy is obstructing justice from prison by contacting witnesses through intermediaries. This is the same argument they made during his bail hearing, the attorney said, and I think they have the evidence to back it up. In court documents, his lawyers argued that the brutal assault of his former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, in a Los Angeles hotel preserved on video was part of a minute-long glimpse into complex but decade-long consensual relationship between Mr. Combs and victim one. Prosecutors previously raised serious concerns about the safety of victims and witnesses if Combs were to go free, and the judge overseeing his case rejected his wide-ranging request for a gag order that would have restricted additional accusers from coming forward. A trial is expected for May 5th of next year. By then, the U.S. attorney overseeing his case could be replaced by President-elect Trump's nominee, former Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Jay Clayton. And I can't agree with that any more than I already have. I mean, he nailed it. You don't want this guy released. He's going to tamper with these witnesses 100%. He may not do it himself, but he'll have people do it. And when he's out of jail, it creates fear. That's how he got away with this for so long. And finally, on November 19th, the judge made what I would say was a not so surprising ruling, in my view, regarding Diddy's appearance in court. It's real quick. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you, and then we'll discuss it. It says Sean Diddy Combs will now appear in court without shackles on him. The judge granted the request today at the urging of Diddy's attorney, Mark Aglifilio, who said shackles, which were seen on Diddy's legs prior to his last hearings, could prejudice the jury. He was quoted as saying, a defendant may not be tried in shackles unless the trial judge finds on the record that it is necessary to use such restraint as a last resort of a compelling interest. such as preserving the safety of persons in the courtroom. He cited United States versus Haynes and said that shackling could undermine the presumption of innocence and interfere with Diddy's ability to communicate effectively with his legal team. And let's talk about that for a second. I actually do agree with that. And if you are someone that watches court TV or some of these other court shows or even the news, and you see these individuals coming into court, they may be a serial killer. They may be someone that's never owned a suit in their life, but they show up in court, they got a nice suit on, they look professional or as professional as they can possibly look. There's a reason for that. And that is when you're a defendant, you have a presumption of innocence. And if you show up and all your tattoos are showing and you look like a thug, it's already going to influence a jury that you're bad news. And even bad people don't want that, right? So if you walk in and you're shackled, it gives the jury a presumption that you're a bad person, and it kind of supersedes that presumption of innocence. So this happens in every case. It doesn't surprise me. And I don't think that Diddy necessarily is a danger that they have to handcuff him. There are some people that show up in court handcuffed. A lot of these really violent criminal serial killers and stuff like that. You know, Hannibal Lecter, they're going to handcuff him. They're going to have the hockey mask on him. I mean, there's no way you wouldn't know this was a bad guy. But imagine if he showed up in court like that. I mean, the jury's going to convict him on day one. So that's the whole point to that. It surprised me actually that he ever showed up to court in shackles, but it looks like that's not going to happen anymore. That's it. You're caught up, folks, with all things Diddy. And of course, as more news breaks, as things come out, I will continue to bring you more episodes. Incidentally, I dropped the first episode in my new Bad Teacher series, and boy, did it go off like a freaking rocket. Everybody is apparently loving that one, so look for more of those to continue dropping. Murdahl series on fire, as it always is. Check that out if you get the chance. This week is Thanksgiving week. I should be dropping this on Monday, so that would be the week of Thanksgiving. And I'm dropping some special things. I'm going to be dropping an episode this week prior to Thanksgiving. It's a Murdahl episode, but it's pretty awesome, y'all. It's different than what you've been getting. We've been covering the entire history of the Murdahl case. We just got to the trial aspect, right, with the jury episode that I just did. I actually have every jailhouse phone call that Murdahl made during his trial. It's like 6 months worth of phone calls. And if y'all ever wanted an inside look at what it's like to be Murdahl in prison, this is it. There's some of it that is absolutely hilarious, or some of it that's even kind of sad. It is probably the best look at prison life for a rich, spoiled little bitch like Murdahl than anything you will ever hear. There's a lot of it that's funny. I just can't even describe it. I'm going to release the first volume of that this week so you can listen to that while you're getting ready for Thanksgiving. Maybe you're cooking up yams or turkey or whatever you're doing. You can really take part in some good tea, as the young folks would call it. I got the tea for you on how Murdahl was being treated while he was in jail during his trial. So look forward to that. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, your host of Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. Much love.